What's up everyone, Taiki here, and in this video I want to go over why I think Fartcoin has bottomed and now we're going to be in a steady uptrend towards all-time highs. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe and check out the premium Discord. I post 3 videos every single week and I share my portfolio in real time. So let's get right into it. So the Fartcoin chart has definitely been one of the most volatile things I've ever experienced. But if you're new to the channel, for some background, I used to be like an ETH/DeFi maxi. I was completely mid-curving the entire markets. And after going crazy, right, I just decided to sell all my ETH, all my DeFi bags for Fartcoin in November. And now my mental well-being is one-to-one correlated with the Fartcoin chart. And as you can see, this is basically like, if you want to know what my portfolio swings are like, it's basically this, right? It's basically this, just this is literally my portfolio, which I mean, I can't complain about, but also I feel like I have lost like 3 years out of my lifespan because of holding this. Obviously we had this huge correction recently, and it was a 69% correction. It really felt bad. It felt so bad that I was like committing seppuku on twitter.com. I wanted to end myself, right? I tried to sacrifice myself. Fortunately, I went to the ER and I did survive. So never again. But fortunately, my seppuku, I think marked the bottom. I think it marked the bottom. And now I have become this internet meme, right? And if there's anything if there's anything you can take away from this YouTube channel, it's that Taiki, right? Taiki emotions mirrors one-to-one with the Wall Street cheat sheet, psychology of a market cycle, right? On the way up, I just keep swinging this like this. And as soon as we dump 69%, I whip this out. But I have learned my lessons. So let's talk about Fartcoin, the price action, and where we're going. Like I said, the most reflexive asset in crypto, pretty brutal. But to put it into perspective, it really hasn't been that bad. It really hasn't been that bad. For example, year to date, how much do you think Fartcoin is up in January? Like, if you're on Twitter, right? Like it feels like Fartcoin is down 50% in January. But actually, January was here, like under $1, and year to date, if you look at the monthly chart, Fartcoin is up, how much is this? 28%. So Fartcoin has outperformed Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana year to date. Of course, you're taking on a lot of risk, so maybe that wasn't really worth it. But if I told, at the beginning of the year, if I told myself that we would be trading at 120 by the end of the month, I would have taken it. It just feels so bad because we just had all this volatility where we first dumped 60%, then we pumped like 4x, and then I really thought that was it. I really thought that was going to be the breakout before just going down 69%. Because I've been talking about this Fartcoin accumulation phase of a lifetime, right? A FAP of a lifetime, and I really thought that I nailed it. Because if you zoom out, I mean, if you followed me on my channel, I have identified that this was the initial FAP, right? This is FAP 1. This is the first Fartcoin accumulation phase. Anyone that bought down here, very, very happy individuals. But of course, as we get to higher and higher prices, the risk also increases. And I also identified that I think this was the Fartcoin accumulation phase of a lifetime, right? This is FAP 2. And I was fapping a lot during this phase. And I really thought we broke out. And I was just, I was like euphoric. I was bull posting because, like I said, my well-being is one-to-one correlated with this chart. So, I was like really euphoric. So when this dumped, I was just in so much pain, right? I was like, oh my God, especially because, Fartcoin gave me this false hope, right? I was like, oh, it's finally happening. Oh my God, I'm so glad I fapped. And then it's like, oh no, I should have fapped less, right? But that being said, hasn't been that bad, right? If you put it into perspective, like year-to-date performance, it's still done really well, outperformed most meme coins, most other coins, and I still think that Fartcoin is gonna flip all these other meme coins like Floki, SPX 6900, Bonk. I mean, Trump, I can't really say for sure because it kind of depends, like, how the president scams us. But generally, I think, things are looking good. Things are looking good. Looking at the recent price action, it really is similar to like here, right? Because in this downturn, right, we had 4 red candles, right? 4 red candles here, a green candle followed by 4 red candles. So 9 days, 8 out of 9 days were red, right? Really painful. And in this downturn, we also had 5 straight days down, a green day, and 3 red days. So 8 out of 9 days red. And as soon as we bounce, it tends to bounce pretty hard. Why is that? Well, Fartcoin is the most reflexive asset in crypto, where as it goes higher, right, the more funnier it gets. It makes sense, right? It's like, oh my God, of course hot air rises. But of course, that reflexivity goes both ways. You can't have reflexivity on the way up, but not have reflexivity on the way down. It's like, oh my goodness, hot air rises. Oh no, cold air is sinking, right? I forgot it's winter in January. It's January, right? It's like 35 degrees outside. Of course, hot air eventually cools down and sink back down. But maybe we are reloading the farts, right? This is like the butthole, and then bam, right? So farting. And my view on Fartcoin, it's pretty simple. Like I said, it's the intersection between AI and meme, right? Those are the two biggest narratives this cycle. Everyone's talking about AI in the TradFi world. It's generally right. And then within crypto, it's like this. Meme coins have performed really well. So, this is the first meme coin that was hallucinated by an AI. I think that has some validity to it. And if our AI overlords, right, say that Fartcoin is the best meme coin, then who am I to argue against the AI? Like probably AI is definitely smarter than me, and if it thinks Fartcoin is the best, then it probably is the best. That's kind of been my mentality. Also, you can't forget about, the rest of the market. Generally, I think Q1 tends to be very, very bullish risk assets, especially crypto, before we sell in May go away, right? I'm not really sure why this seasonality happens, but it just happens, right? So I don't try to overcomplicate things. There's a lot of people that kind of overanalyze like macro and liquidity cycles and top signals and whatnot. But I'm just gonna keep it simple. Q1 tends to be bullish. And if we are in a bullish environment, I want to long the most reflexive asset. It really is that, right? It's like, why would I want to own anything else? I think everything else is a distraction. It's kind of where I am at, but also, right? You can't have. It's not easy, right? It's definitely not easy. So my plan is to just hold, long and strong in Q1, and then I'll reevaluate as we approach the end of March. It kind of depends what happens, right? It's really hard for me to be like, oh yeah, like. XYZ is going to happen because I really don't know, right? But if Bitcoin breaks all-time highs, I would expect Fartcoin and hot air to rise alongside with it. That's kind of where I'm at, But I'll be honest, right? As I was committing seppuku, right, like earlier this week, I was not feeling well. I was like, like this is going to be like a generational round trip because I have only bought this coin. I have not sold a single coin, right? Like imagine the mental fortitude it takes to do that. Because like my buys were like here, like a bunch here, right? I just bought a bunch here. I think I bought a few times on the way up. I bought some here, bought some here. I think I bought like a few times here. And then, I was like, oh my God, like this is really, really brutal. But that's what happens, right? There is no free lunch. As much as I want it to be a free lunch, I just want this thing to go straight up. But it's not that simple. I think, if we do break out of here, if Fartcoin does bottom here and break out, which, seems likely, right? Because Fartcoin is one of those things where, when it's going up, everyone wants to buy Fartcoin. It's like, haha, right? Fartcoin, hot air rises. But when it's going down, no one wants to touch this, right? It's like Fartcoin, like what? It's those assets where when it's dumping, like no one wants to buy it. But as soon as it pumps, people start FOMOing in, right? Because of the reflexivity. And if Bitcoin can support Fartcoin, right? If Bitcoin can support hot air to rise, I think it's setting up for a beautiful parabola. I thought the parabola would. If you watched my videos in December, I was like, hey, like the Fartcoin parabola is gonna start in January, and I was like, oh, this is it. But this weakness pretty brutal. I'm still trying to figure out like what the real effects are on like the Trump coin, because the markets were fine before the Trump coin, right? And then ever since that thing launched, or like Melania, right? Those two coins launched, it's just kind of messed with the entire psychology of market participants. I'm definitely exhausted, right? I'm definitely feeling exhausted. But I think in hindsight, this was like a false breakout, right? I thought following FAP 1, there was no break. Whoops. Following the initial FAP phase of a lifetime, there was no false breakout. And I think following, I thought this was like the FAP, right? But maybe if you look back in history, this entire range, right? Maybe this will be just reviewed from like mid-December to late January, early February, right? Maybe that would be FAP 2, right? Maybe the second FAP is taking longer than I realized, right? Which makes sense, as we mature, we can last longer. So it makes sense that the second FAP takes a longer time. I really didn't consider that into my analysis, but I think I'm seeing the future better now. So that's it, right? I think we're just fapping. I'm no longer fapping, unfortunately. I'm out, right? It's too much for me. But hopefully that was the bottom. If we just if we just like lose this entire pump, it's definitely gonna look dire. But if I am right on the Fartcoin thesis, then if Bitcoin breaks all-time highs, I think Fartcoin would follow. And it's really hard to predict how strong these coins can go, right? I'm not sure if like Doge is like a good example of comparing these things. But let's see, like if you look at the market cap of Doge, like roughly 4 years ago, kind of zooming in here, like late January was like when it started going parabolic, right? And basically January 23rd, 4 years ago, we were like at $1 billion. And then it just starts to go parabolic. And one thing I have been considering, and I know this sounds stupid, right? I'm not gonna lie, like this is very stupid, but I'll leave it here. I think there's merits. There's merits to buying the rumor on National Fart Day. So obviously, right, a lot of things in crypto tend to be buy the rumor, sell the news. And there is no real reason for why this even matters for Fartcoin. But I was kind of thinking about this, right? Because people tweet about this on Twitter. I'm like, yeah, like whatever, right? But also thinking about incentives here. If I'm a centralized exchange and I was going to list Fartcoin, I would probably pick February 5th, right, on National Fart Day. Like that would make sense. Like if I was a centralized exchange. That being said, I don't know anyone from a centralized exchange. I'm not part of like the listing process, but that would make sense. So I think there is some merit to like buying the rumor, because there's like this, sometimes like the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. I think there are people. Like actually, I think there are people that's like buying the rumor on this to see if the listing happens, and then if nothing happens, then we might just like dump 20% or like 10 to 20% in like the following week or so. I know that sounds ridiculous, but Fartcoin is one of those things that's done so much volume on chain, yet no exchange has listed it, and it kind of would make sense. Am I trading off of that? Hell no, definitely not. Right? I believe in Fartcoin, but at this point, like all I think about every day is like Fartcoin. So, that's kind of where my mind wanders. I don't think there's like that much merit in like how I'm thinking about this, but it definitely is worth consideration in my opinion. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. See you guys next week. Bye-bye. And check out the premium Discord if you're interested. 3 weekly videos, and I share my portfolio in real time. Bye-bye.